Okay, we ready to do something here? All right. Thank you all for coming in early, particularly Senator Jennings, which means we are going to take his bill up first. But I will note that for the viewing audience, 143 is going to be held. So
We'll come back to it.
we will get back to it. Yep. Huh? No, we're going to do yours first. You got here on time. I'm going to, you're first. 488. 488. 488. So moved. All right, 488.
All right, you have a reprint on your desk. The amendment is from the sponsor of the bill. So what this bill does is it deals with manufacturing personal property, and it creates an exemption for that manufacturing inventory for small or medium-sized enterprises. And it's from, obviously, there's no state personal property tax, so this affects county and municipal property tax.
But it affects the whole state.
Correct.
I'm just looking in the fiscal, and that's why I'm asking that, because it specifically talks about Worcester County.
Yeah, so I don't know why it talks just about Worcester County. Let me see. Because Worcester County is the only county that taxes manufacturing personal property. So manufacturing specifically is Worcester County,
Is the only county this is going to affect?
based on the fiscal note. Yep.
Were you familiar with that, Senator? No. Okay, why don't you keep talking about
So,
what the amendment does?
yeah, so the amendment is to specify what small or medium-sized enterprises means, and that would be 50 or fewer employees. Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, conceptually, I think it's a good thing. Exemptions are always tricky, right? Because exemptions are required as opposed to authorized for counties. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
okay.
I was reading something else.
Yeah. This is a little, this new piece of information is a little interesting.
Except, okay, so that's the only county. Obviously, this would apply to municipalities as well. So that's where the other portion of the impact comes in.
Okay. So,
Amount is not ready yet. Oh, we said.
Yeah,
okay. So, yes, sir. How many what? One county is all we know of, and we don't know how many municipalities, I think. Is that accurate?
Let's see, 57 municipalities reported business personal property for manufacturing equipment. So there's a potential decrease in the municipal personal property tax revenues of 4.8 million. The most significant impact would be on the Eastern Shore. And, you know, the difficulty with this too, and I checked with SDATs, if this bill is now, under these amendments, would kind of define what is small. Their records don't allow them to do that, so we can't tell whether this amendment would shrink the potential cost or not.
So, I mean, I really, conceptually, in terms of helping manufacturing bases, I think this is important. Is there a way to, is there a way to make this authorizing?
Yeah,
On personal property?
yeah.
Senator, what do you think about that?
More inclined to do that. I do think. It was a little over the top the way it is.
Yeah,
I mean, I can see with some of these smaller municipalities, it could be tough.
yeah. Yeah, it might be, it
especially
might
with-
be their biggest thing in their,
Yeah, especially, you know, if you have some major manufacturer there.
Yeah.
I mean, 50 employees. In these tough budget times, it gives them the opportunity. We can always come back, so.
Okay. So, and what about the issue of establishing the size? That's not anywhere else in law? Where did those numbers come from? Defining small.
The sponsor presented that as an amendment.
Gotcha. Do you happen to know if it was from, it's anywhere else in law?
I'd have to search. I mean, there's all sorts of different definitions of small, medium, I mean, runs the gamut.
Right. How about we see if that exists? And we'll have an amendment next time we come around for authorizing. Okay? All right. Okay, we'll take a half a loaf there. All right. Yeesh. 154. $14 million.
Okay, so this is the Access to Counsel and Evictions Program. When that bill initially passed, it had a mandate of $14 million up to a certain year. This bill makes that mandate, extends it through, makes it permanent, $14 million mandate. And then the other thing that the bill does is effective in 2026. There was a task force, and it abolishes that task force in another year's time.
Right. And in the 26 budget, the governor put 14 million in, right?
I'd have to check.
Pretty sure.
But it's a mandate for every year.
It is. So, I mean, here's the challenge, of course. We got this housing situation. I hate to use the word crisis every time we have something going on that's not great, but it's a pretty big deal. We have not been able, from my perspective, to support financially developing quickly enough affordable housing, and it's not being created organically. So it seems to me, and let the sponsor jump in whenever she wants, but it seems to me that barring that, this is pretty significant thing that we need to do to keep people, put them in a fair position, given all the challenges on housing right now. So, thoughts, anyone? This is obviously would be a big mandate. Was it, and it, when did it begin and end before?
Yeah, so before it was a mandate for fiscal 2024 through 2027. So this would start impacting in 2028.
So the mandate still exists now through 27.
Correct.
I mean, I know that in terms of ensuring there's appropriate staff and those kinds of issues, the ability to plan for the future matters for the organizations who provide these kinds of services.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
If it's already funded now till 28, is that what you said? Why,
27.
27, could we just hold it off until next year and see if it helps before we put this in for an added mandate?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, certainly a reasonable thought from a budgetary standpoint, from our standpoint.
Yeah.
but then doesn't address and probably creates some confusion in the world of doing this for the people who provide the services. Senator Hellman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I am very grateful that it was included in the budget. I do think it would be particularly challenging if we were not to do it for at least another year after that, given this is a fairly new program, and they're still standing it up and still recruiting people to be able to do the representation, still going through Maryland Legal Services and, other organizations. So it's challenging and going to become even more challenging for them and all of the other organizations that are involved in providing these kinds of services, I think are going to be really stretched. So this is, taking money from the unclaimed property fund, which is where we've had it all along, or since the beginning. And this works. I mean, there's I can give you the reports and the data about how important it is to make the system work on both sides. This was a bipartisan effort, coming out of here a couple of years ago when we created these services for people. It makes the judicial system work better. It keeps people housed, so the costs of people being evicted aren't borne by the rest of our state budget. So I do think it is preventive, and if we could give them at least another year after that and do the other things in this bill, I think it would go a long way to help.
This is indirectly applied to this respective bill. I do think that some of the things that we're doing is self-inflicted when we talk about affordable housing. Like one of the BRFA items that was informed to me was that they're doubling the registration fee for lead recertification every year. And when you do things like that, it extracts people out of the system that could be able to offer up affordable housing from that standpoint. So I say, I'm glad that we do things like this, but I also think that we have to watch some of the policy choices that's coming out of the Senate, budget and tax, because it's also taking landlords out of the system that could be producing housing.
And I have not had a chance to talk to Delegate Barnes, but I was going to make a suggestion to him that we did not do anything more than in total of all the kinds of mandates we wanted to start, around $10 million from each house. So we've done so far a little over $2 million in the things that we've done. Just another point in all this discussion. And I know that there are others who are concerned about this throughout the Senate leadership. We've had a few conversations about all of this too. So this is not, we're just in a very tricky time. Yeah. Senator Song?
I'm just going to kind of agree with Senator King that maybe this is not the right time. And just possibly look at this again and adjust it maybe next year, see where we are from there. It's a good possibility to look at it that way. So.
Anybody else? Yes.
Just a question.
Yeah.
And look, there's quite a few bills here. Are there any other mandates that we're voting on that are going to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, I had those two bills that we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
Can I see maybe doing, 500, $1 million each there?
Does cutting it make it ineffective?
You mean the amount? Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. I
Right.
think that's going to that'd send a worse message, I think.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the thought that you have about just one more year. Anybody else want to weigh in? Thoughts, Senator Zucker?
Thank you very much. So when, right now we have bunch of budget cuts on our priorities that we're trying to figure out how to, so does that negotiation with the House include restoring vital cuts that, like right now we're talking about adding, but we still have vital,
well-
vital things that were cut that,
Yeah. So, again, $10 million is not, in an out year, is not insurmountable in any way, in my mind. There are ways to get around. We're just, I mean, but it's a very conservative approach. So, you know, and for instance, in this particular one, it wouldn't matter for a couple of years, quite frankly, because it's already, 27 is already baked in. And for some of those other things,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
can we go back and correct it in like 2 years? I mean, just because we put it in now doesn't mean we can't change it, right?
Of course. Yeah, we could pull it. I mean, the problem is that what it does is reflects in the structural, right?
Right.
We're going to get to a good place on the structural at the end of the day for this budget. We'll meet the SAC recommendations. We're going to get there. So that's not an issue. It's just, I mean, that's tough. I mean, this is important in my mind. Obviously, I have my name on it too, but it's important because barring any actual dollars that puts people in housing, ensuring that they get a fair shake in the system is a, yeah. Okay, well, let's hold it. I mean, as said, it is good for another year. In my mind, if we did anything, it would be to add 1 year. And let's just think about that. That's where my hat is. Everybody good with that for now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, 414.
Senate Bill 414 allows a tax credit for stillborn children born after week 20. The credit is $1,000 for each birth for which a certificate is issued by MDH.
Okay, we've seen this one before. It's the same posture, I believe.
Yes.
Questions? Sue?
Income stipulations on this?
There are no income stipulations on this bill. The only requirement is that they have to have the certificate from MDH.
Okay, yes,
Looking at the fiscal, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the fiscal note here. Where'd that number come from? Do we know? The fiscal note.
360,000?
Yes.
That's just the estimated amount that the fiscal note writer came up with.
That's a lot of, it's a lot.
it seems like a lot, doesn't it?
360,000.
That seems like a lot.
So that'd mean 360 still.
360.
What's that?
That's 360,000 a year.
No, $360,000, right?
Right, 360,000.
Yeah, so 360 stillbirths a year. 360, right? So, which seems plausible. Seems plausible. Okay?
Second.
All's in favor? Opposed? You certainly can. Anybody else want to be on the bill?
Sure.
Okay, I have Stallings, King,
Wait, raise your hands again, those who want to be on the bill.
Stallings, King, Jackson, Roosevelt,
Me. That what?
It's pretty disturbing.
Which, in what sense? Yeah, yeah.
It's like the maternal,
Yeah.
and that was just that.
Yeah, yeah. Sarah Songs, you want to take that one? Sure. All right. All right, so we have the Decade Act on here. We were going to vote it. I think we're actually probably going to wait until after crossover on this. So we've got a little time, so we're just going to hold that for now. $453.
Senate Bill 453, this came out of the Procurement Subcommittee yesterday. Last year, you all passed legislation that added statutory prohibitions on certain clauses being included in state contracts. This bill is follow-up for that, clarifying a few of those provisions. One of those provisions in current law prohibits clauses that limit the liability for any direct loss to the state for damaged property. The bill refines that to be damage to real property or tangible personal property. The other thing the bill does is there is a provision in current law that prohibits clauses that limit the state's ability to recover the cost of a replacement contractor. The bill refines that to clarify that that is related to when the cost of the replacement contractor and what's already been paid on the contract, to the extent that it exceeds the original contract amount. And those are the two changes. This provision's only been in effect since October 1 of 2024. So regarding the real property stuff, everything would just, or the property pieces, it would just revert back to how it's always been done.
Questions about this? Madam Chair, it's good? Madam Chair? Out of procurement. All right. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Um, 472.
All right, 472, I believe you have a reprint on your desk. It's the same reprint that came up the last time. This is the one that authorizes localities to set a separate class and therefore a separate tax rate for rail stations, which the amendment now includes Purple Line. It's authorizing, and it would be for unimproved land that's located within 1 mile of a rail station. And so that is the amendments. The other amendment was, well, it came in as the special rate cannot be 0, so it would have to be something greater than 0.
So the idea here is that you can create a defined geography, or is it already established in the bill?
1 mile.
1 mile. And so with 1 mile within a rail, is it just a station or a rail line?
Rail station.
Station. And so within 1 mile, they're allowed to create a separate rate, and the idea is that you might have a lower property tax rate to encourage development around the station.
No, actually, a higher priority tax rate.
Higher,
Yeah, yeah.
to encourage the value of, I got you.
It's undeveloped.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha.
The last detail of the bill is that.
But that would be whatever they can do whatever they want. We're giving them the authority to set the rate.
Correct. The tax revenue that's attributable to that rate, 5% under the amendment would go to the Transportation Trust Fund, and then the remaining to the applicable local government.
Yes, sir.
I mean, in general, I'm good. Just a question, does that impact the municipality and what they do? I mean, how does that work if you're in a municipality, they have a rate, the county or the municipality, or county and a municipality have a rate? Does that impact how does that
Does it
impact?
cover municipalities?
Yes.
Rates?
Let me double check. Says just the county level, there. Hold on, there's lots of provisions here. They're all intertwined. Yeah, it does only apply to the county because municipalities already have the power to divide up their
So it only
classifications
applies to
of
the,
property.
say that again?
Municipalities already don't need the General Assembly's authority or
Gotcha.
permission to set these subclasses. So therefore, this is only authorizing the counties to do it because the municipalities already have the
Gotcha.
authority.
Thank
to do
you,
it.
thank you.
Senator Halman?
I was just looking at Mako's testimony. They said they support it with the amendments. Are these the amendments that they support it with? Do you know?
So,
It's all
think-
authorizing, right?
it is all authorizing, but if they do it, then 5%. I checked with Mako on these amendments, and they said they still don't like that 5% goes to the state. That was their main thing, but they can live with the 5%.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Just with all due respect to the counties, I mean, the transit facilities are generally paid for by the state, so it's a fair deal.
Right. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Just one. Senator Sullivan.
Okay.
Uh, Okay. Anybody else want to be on it? Okay. Senator Benson, Louis Young, King.
Yep. Okay, got it.
Okay, very good. Senator Rosepep. Of course, we'll do that. Yes, it will be. 528. What do you say? Are we ready already to do that?
Senate Bill 528 establishes a tax-free holiday for veterans on Veterans Day, beginning in 2025. I have a request for a sponsor amendment from Senator Hester, who wanted to be added on to this bill, should it pass.
Okay. What, does this distinguish any of the products? Or is it just
It does not.
anything?
It's anything that applies to the sales and use
Yeah, I just want to
tax.
raise the point that when these have come up before, we've thought, oh, well, is the car exempt? And how many things can be done? Is the refrigerator exempt? And I'm not saying it's bad or not, I'm just saying that it could jack it up considerably. And there's been some, we've had some of that kind of discussion before. I would also point out, too, that I think it may be interesting if we decide to go down this road and maybe do a little more research on that part of it, historically. Because obviously, the back-to-school thing only applies to like school products and clothes and things like that are associated with that. I don't know what other tax-free days we have. Do you have that anywhere?
not
Okay.
offhand.
Okay.
I just question
Energy efficient.
the idea of adding a new one now in this climate.
Fair point. What were you saying? Prove what? That they're a veteran?
They have to present their ID.
So you gotta have a tax return. Here's the two. Alright, so they gotta have their veteran card.
It does say that?
It says valid driver's license or government issue identification card that includes a notation indicating the individual is a veteran.
Okay. Well, let's think about it in that other context, just the cost context. What, you gonna get a house? Yeah. Yeah, right. Okay. All right. 599.
You all heard this bill yesterday. Senate Bill 599 would add a requirement that the governor include funding for the Behavioral Health Crisis Response Grant Program in fiscal years 27 through 29 at $5 million each year.
All right, so this is,
This is a mandate. This
it
is
is,
shall.
no, it's a mandate, but it can't, it existed before
It existed before.
as a mandate,
As a mandate through up until 2025.
so it was not mandated for this year.
It was not mandated for
Was it-
fiscal 26
was it
in law.
put in this year?
Let me check.
Thanks, Senator.
I believe there was 5 million in the budget this year.
I don't think there was 5 million. However, in the analysis, the Department of Health said they would find the money for this year.
Oh, right. The fiscal note indicates that MDH advises there's 5 million in the budget that they could use for this, even though it's not
Right,
particularly dedicated to it.
right.
So what do these grants pay for?
Do you want me to answer that? 'Cause I can-
Anybody who knows?
They pay for programs in a number of different counties that are crisis response programs. They're mobile crisis units, they're behavioral health programs in schools. They are for people who are experiencing severe behavioral health concerns. In Baltimore County, it's an urgent care clinic. In Carroll County, it's a mobile crisis team serving all over. It diverts people from emergency rooms and from jails. In Frederick County, it's a walk-in clinic that's been operational since 2019. In Hartford County, it's an in-school crisis intervention team. In the Midshore, it's mobile crisis services to youth and families. And Prince George's County, it's also a mobile crisis team. And I have data on how many people they've diverted from emergency rooms, and if you'd like to see that too.
Yeah.
These are folks, I mean, these are frontline
Right.
people.
Was there any testimony on what would happen if they did not receive this? That the programs would just all shut down?
I think a lot of them would go away.
Senator Roosevelt.
How long have we had this mandate?
Since like 2019, I believe.
Right. The statutory mandate in law started 3 million in 2020, and then over 3 years went up to 5 million.
Went up to 5.
Okay, thank you.
Can you read off just, unless you did it already and I wasn't paying close enough attention about the number of people served?
I have it some broken down by jurisdiction. So for example, in my county, the clinic provides over 1,000 psychiatric and diagnostic evaluations along with medication referrals for ongoing care each year. Carroll County, over the last 3 years, 2,000 dispatches were made, diverting 229 individuals for an emergency petition to the hospital, 180 from the emergency room, 46 from the local jail. Frederick County has been operational since 2019, served 8,000 individuals. A third of those served report they would have gone to the emergency room if the walk-in clinic weren't available. Hartford, I don't have data. Prince George's, the team provided over 1,000 dispatches each year, primarily for psychiatric emergencies, behavioral health emergencies, and suicidal ideation.
Well, it's clearly a continuing program. What's the mandate years?
The mandate years are fiscal 27, 28, and 29. 5
Yeah.
million each.
Is it possible for us to just make a list of the bills that are here that have funding? I mean, these are all good ideas. I just don't know if we can do it all.
Yeah.
If we had a list that we could look at towards the end,
Yeah.
might not
I
be
mean, we
a bad idea.
can, sure. We can do it that way. I mean, I think there clearly is a distinction in my mind between programs that are already existing, right? And new programs. Somebody asked me that the other day after the hearing, actually, about the community action councils and the boys and girls, and I was like, well, this would be a new mandate. However, we've been pumping random amounts of money into them for years too. So they're all complicated questions, and they all have their own little histories. There, Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is certainly a worthwhile program. Know it well. I have a question. Has either you, Senator Heddleman, or Senator Augustine, or whomever is working on this, thought about the challenges we may have if, I don't anticipate the federal government cutting off behavioral health. Nobody anticipates that. That has no political connotation to it. But is there any way we can find out what the challenges would be for the state if the feds sort of pause that? It's a lot of money, so.
I mean, it'd be part of Medicaid. I mean, that's the bottom line.
It would be part of Medicaid?
It is part of Medicaid, currently being funded. A lot of the behavioral health stuff is funded through Medicaid.
I didn't think, I'm sorry, I'm not disputing that, but I didn't think I knew when a lot of these behavioral health dollars came, particularly from the federal support. They kind of just poured into the states, and then they were disseminated as necessary, because there are some occasions, particularly on the public safety side of the world, that, from a diversion standpoint, there may not be I may not have to be a part of the Medicaid group of folks. It just occurs because those examinations or those examinations need to occur in a ready fashion. So if I'm making sense, I just didn't know it was just Medicaid.
I don't have the numbers, but I mean, the Medicaid behavioral health budget is substantial and serves substantial number of people.
I don't mean to confuse it. I just wanted to know the answer, that's all. I'll talk later.
Yeah, I wanted to raise a more general point about these. The governor, in his decade plan, their pitch for that around economic development incentives is we have all these little economic development incentives. And the administration didn't think we had a strategy, and so they spent a bunch of time thinking about it. And then they came up with a decade plan to, I would say, try to rationalize what we're doing with the economic development incentives. I'm not necessarily did it perfectly, but the concept was that we have a lot of little things. And these kind of things, to me, kind of fall in that category, is over the years, we put in mandates, again, because we didn't have question one and authority. But secondly, it seems to me like, and health is a great example, because we got huge amounts of money going into health, and then we have these little health programs. But it's not obvious to me that they're integrated and strategic the way they need to be. And somewhere I saw, maybe it was a DLS proposal, maybe it was an administration proposal, to cut some piece of flexible money for local health departments. I may remember that wrong, but kind of the big picture is, I think these little pieces are not really the way we ought to be addressing these problems. And that doesn't solve the issue of what do we do on this bill exactly today. But I think as we're thinking broadly about this, I think we ought to be thinking less about the little things and more about the big things.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think we've got, you think about, we were just talking about Medicaid.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but this is a program that would service anybody.
I know, I agree with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, so it's
more, it's different.
Yeah, it's a different kind of.
No, I agree.
Yeah, no, it's getting the right framework is a big deal.
The local health department services everybody, can service everybody.
Yeah.
So I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I just wanted to add, to be clear, that a lot of these services are not covered by Medicaid.
Okay. What we're going to do, I think, on all these is we're going to take Senator King's suggestion. I know. Wow.
Responsibility has to be someplace.
Every now and then, pull it out of the hat. No, I think it's a good suggestion. This one to me is, I think we got to do it at the end of the day, but we will hold it for now. I had asked Erica to come up with all the mandates we had passed already, and I told you earlier it was a little over $2 million so far, but I think we should probably just pull them all up, what we got in our possession.
Okay, let's see if that database does that. Oh, it
Okay.
does, yes, it does. Yep.
Excellent.
I can do that.
Excellent. Okay, 6:05.
Senate Bill 605 makes the administrative and appeals process of the digital.
Yes.
While we are holding five, this,
The last one?
I'm sorry. Yeah, while
The
we're holding
599?
5-9,
Yeah, no, I think there's a universal agreement that it's very important. Senator King made a suggestion that we should look at the list of all the mandates that are in our possession.
I agree with that 100%.
And then we will have in a subsequent
That's right.
voting session, we will be able to put them against each other.
I think that that's absolutely correct, because we're giving a lot of tax breaks for a lot of our municipalities and different organizations. Now, we don't want to get ourselves in a corner here, and we're not going to be able to have the money we need. We don't have the money in the first place, but we've got to be careful about how we do this. But this year, this is very critical. But the mandates are also even more critical. We can't keep doing the mandates. Can't keep doing it.
We have to live, we have to adjust our structural,
Whatever that means.
I remember a former minority leader who used to have a change jar. Say that, and used to shake that.
shake it and.
Remember? The former minority leader used to sit up front and he would shake his change jar. I guess you guys don't remember?
I did.
Was it you?
Yes.
Oh.
Remember we had the little mason jar with change in it, 83%?
Yep. I remember.
Yeah, Mike would just gavel me down.
That's right.
Ah, you can't do that.
I remember.
And then somebody took it.
I'm sorry I interrupted.
I still got enough in there. I'm getting some ice creams and things out of it. All right, we're on 6:05.
Senate Bill 605 makes the administrative and appeals process of the digital advertising gross revenue tax, referred to as DAGR, the same as for other taxes collected by the comptroller. The administrative process requires the comptroller or the designee to hold an informal hearing and to send out a notice that's a notice in reference to the assessment that is due. And upon receiving a request for a hearing within 30 days, the comptroller must promptly hold the hearing and issue a final determination. So it just brings DAGR in line with the other taxes or the other taxes that these administrative hearings are held for.
There is that.
Status of the actual case. I mean, this involves the big tech tax that we passed, and it's been in the administrative process. Sorry?
Still ongoing.
So this would change that and short circuit the process?
I don't know. Senator Zucker.
Mr. Vice Chair, how are you? So I was concerned about that before I introduced it. I checked with the Attorney General's office. They said it has no impact at all on the court case. It has no impact at all. AG's office said I'm good to go on it. The Comptroller's office is fine with it. There's no opposition. Anyone that signed up in opposition was in error on this, but my understanding is it has nothing to do with,
Well, then I don't understand the significance of it. I mean, what is the status of the case right now?
why, I mean, I guess I don't understand what the relevance is.
The companies have challenged the tax.
Okay,
And my understanding, at some point, I haven't checked in lately, it was in some part of the administrative process.
Okay.
And they went to court, and I don't know exactly where it stands. Well, maybe, Mr. Chairman, let me just see if we can hold it so I can get a better understanding of how this issue, you've checked with them, I haven't had a chance to get input on that.
well, you don't want to take my word for it, no problem, we're good.
I take your word for
Okay.
everything, but I want to
right.
understand it too.
Okay, all right.
You know,
I mean, all right,
to make sure like bills like yours get the proper attention that they deserve, we do
All right.
hold things and we will, next week, we will be voting a lot too.
Yeah,
And
sure.
that's the whole point of why we're here, because we're gonna hit that crossover mark, which means our bills have to get second reader, third reader. All right. 663.
663 allows the comptroller to send notices by mail or electronic means. These notices are in reference to the earned income tax credit, and they're sent to employers so that they can be posted for the employees. The notices have been mailed in the past, and the comptroller had requested that these notices be allowed to be delivered by electronic means.
That seems perfectly reasonable.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. Senator Lewis Young,
Right over there.
you got this one. Okay? Keep talking. What's it?
No.
No, the earned income tax credit,
663.
663. It's just electronic notification, that's all. All right, 667.
Senate Bill 667 clarifies skill-based amusement devices, like the ones offered at places like Main Event and Dave & Buster's, that award prizes or tickets is not considered a slot machine.
And we have an amendment to do the
The
$5.99.
$5.99.
$5.99. Because
Favorable.
all's in favor is amended? Aye, opposed? Senator Jennings?
I refer to Chuck E. Cheese and Rat Casino.
You may not. You may not. I'm teasing. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Okay.
I'll be out next week. What do you think, Tuesday for these?
Second meeting on Tuesday. All right, let's see if we can, that's 2 in a row. All right, and we're on a roll. 795.
Senate Bill 795 came out of Procurement Subcommittee yesterday. The bill would add packaged and repackaged janitorial products to the list of janitorial products that a prime contractor on a maintenance contract with the state must purchase from Bryant Industries and Services of Maryland.
Senator Benson? Good bill? Yeah, we'll pass it. All right. Senator Corderman?
So. Everything in the fiscal note just talks about the impact on state and local government. And I don't know the answer to this, it might be more rhetorical, but I don't know how many of our small businesses in the state have these type of packages, or this type of product per se, that they would no longer be eligible to participate in. And And so
It's a
that-
preference, right? It's not a.
Preference, yes, that's my concern there.
This is one of the preferred providers, yes.
Right. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
And then just to clarify, there's already a list of things, so this is just adding, yeah.
Yeah. And why these, was there discussion about why these specific things?
I believe it's something they offered that is similar to other products that they're already providing.
Gotcha. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, Senator Benson. I think this next one, like the Garrett County one we have, if we end up doing my bill on the statewide, these would fold into that. So I think we can hold this one right now. And I think this next one, there's something to hold on this too, isn't there?
Yeah, 829 came out of procurement yesterday. It's the extension for the MBE disparity study and reports. I just need to double check on whether there was another piece that needed to be tacked in. We did one yesterday, just got to double check, so.
Okay.
just
But it came out of,
Came out of the subcommittee.
but you still, something came up since then. and you-
Something came up, yeah,
wanna
yesterday evening.
check?
I just need to double check, but I think
Okay.
it's probably okay as is.
Okay.
I just need to confirm that.
All right, 843.
Okay, so you have a reprint on your desk for this one, submitted by the sponsor. So what this bill does is it deals with, for counties, well, it ends up applying just to Kent County and to one school in Kent County. But the way that it does it is by saying that if a county meets certain criteria, so, oh, did I miss that one last night?
The last one.
Okay, great. Good, everybody? Okay, great. So on page 2 of the reprint, this is how it establishes that it would just be Kent County, basically saying that the percentage of students that are farm students is greater than statewide average. All schools that participate in the Agriculture's Department Community Eligibility Provision. Their current local and state cost share for school construction is 50 state and 50 local. And that the eligible project is literally the only elementary, middle, or high school in the county. So if Kent County meets those criterias, and so therefore what happens is that the local cost share would be adjusted to be the average of all the counties that have 100% participation in the CEP provisions, in which case then their local share is adjusted downwards, and the state share would be adjusted upwards. So the result of that would be taking Kent County from a 50-50 thing to be,
38.
no, actually, that was a lot of confusion during the hearing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the end result is that the state would be 84% and the county would be 16%.
How did that happen?
Because that's the average of all the other counties that have 100% CEP.
Senator Isbeth?
Yeah. As you may recall at the hearing, I asked questions related to the cost of the project, and I followed up with the AIC afterwards. And there's reason to believe the cost of the project is way out of the ballpark. And I've set up a meeting for later this afternoon with Senator Hershey and folks from the county to talk about it, so I'd appreciate holding the bill.
No. Senator Jackson?
Thank you. So that would mean for any school project in that one county, the split goes to, which is astonishing,
84.
8416.
It's any county that
As
does those
long
criteria,
as,
Well, it's any county that fits those criteria. However,
Yeah.
the amendments before you also sets a 3-year sunset to the bill.
so over the next 3 years, any county that meets that criteria would go to an 84-16 split.
Correct.
And that criteria is based on, I see what it's based on here. Has there ever been a thought, if a county is that small, to like combine, I think Senator Rosepep and I had this conversation, combine like middle school and high school, you know, or everybody under one roof? I mean, has there ever been that type of thought? And I may be, look,
I mean, they've already stated, I believe this middle school is 4 grades as opposed to 3. So that's a little bit of a combined there, but I not that I'm aware of. Obviously, all of that would happen at a local level. And this county's, I believe they're at about 1,800 students or so right now.
1,800, that's like a high school in Prince George's County, I mean, you know. So this would go to an 84-16 split, and you said that there's a sunset on here?
The amendments on the last page, 3 years.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What is Kent County's unassigned fund balance?
That's in another folder, but I do have that. Let me pull that up.
So my question is, obviously, we saw some of this in Burfa, or one of the hearings, the budget hearing. And when we have counties that do have a unassigned fund balance and they're looking for a one-time expense, they can use that money for this. And we should be able to, not just let them keep that money on the books. Let's allow them to use that money towards a project like this.
In 2024, Kent County's unassigned fund balance was $1.7 million.
Okay. Clearly not as high as a lot of counties, but.
Nope.
Yep.
Correct.
Senator Quarterman.
Thank you. I think, just for context, I know Senator Jack said it. Eric, I think you said it best, the average. I think maybe folks don't realize that 84-16 in the rural areas is, like, I know my county, we're 80-20. It's extremely challenging in a lot of these areas to move forward with any type of school construction. So I think you were probably surprised, because I'm sure Prince George is much lower than that, but it's not uncommon in a lot of the rural areas. It is that high, just due to the challenges there. So just context.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, this is, again, conceptually, other than simply helping out another jurisdiction, is part of the whole One Maryland concept, for those who actually believe in that. And, the act of doing this, in effect, pushes the cost onto the other jurisdictions who don't have that beneficial rate. And that is certainly a commitment from those other jurisdictions. Senator McCray.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to lean in and say that I was supportive of this respective effort. I've heard this conversation going on. I've sat on the school construction work group with Senator King and a number of folks. I know when we were figuring out our puzzles for the Build to Learn Act, like, this was a conversation that was going on. It's not like these folks haven't been trying to figure out this respective piece. We heard during the testimony that they've been scaling back. I don't even fully agree with the scaling back. I think that all of our young scholars should be able to learn in world-class facilities, but they've obviously said, hey, we're pulling back and keep pulling back. The other thing that I just want to recognize is, as this has langed on, like it has gone for a significant amount of time, like the cost of construction is going up. So we're still accruing that. We're doing a public school football stadium, and like the cost went to 3 times the amount that we projected, and that was only like 3 or 4 years ago. From that standpoint, so I just as they keep trying to figure this puzzle out, it's adding more costs to the puzzle, which they don't have.
I mean, I agree, at the end of the day, I think we should be helping out here. I don't think that's the question, but I think making sure we know we're going in eyes wide open on it is the important part. Do you have any more comments? Okay. All right, so we got a couple more people. You're gonna have that meeting. Okay. So hold. All right. 860.
Senate Bill 860 prohibits a person from operating online sweepstakes in Maryland, and it also prohibits a person holding a gaming license from conducting, promoting, or operating an online sweepstakes. Violators are guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable for up to 3 years in prison or a fine between $10,000 and $100,000. And it would require the state lottery and gaming control agency to deny the person's license application or revoke their application.
Thoughts on this? Senator Quarterman?
I think it speaks for itself. It's an effort. There is no statute to enforce this right now. These illegal iGaming, as we saw before you, Google, there's all these things here. So it's a good bill.
I agree. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, 861. Well, I think we're going to put this on the list. Just change it. You think? You're good. Senator Quarterman.
So, everyone's familiar with this fund we created years ago. We've had, as you heard in the hearing, tremendous success with it. We'd like to see it go. We understand it's a mandate as it's currently written. We were very appreciative to hear the governor's support when he was here the other day publicly for it. And so we're fine with amending it back to an authorization and to continue to work with the administration going forward.
Okay.
Favorable.
As amended. All those in favor? Opposed? Formally call that, eh? All right, 892.
I was just making sure I didn't have any follow-up questions to know what to do there. Okay. 892, it requires local school boards to pay education support professionals a minimum wage of $25 per hour and then adjusted by inflation. Let's see, and it is a mandate and would require each county board to pay that amount. And then it would increase by a formula in terms of inflation with the CPI. And that's it. Yep, it clarifies.
Is there an average wage now?
I don't see that listed in the fiscal note.
Senator Zucker?
I mean, it fluctuates. We've seen that some education support professionals in Baltimore County already make 25. Some don't. That's why they're having problems with retention and recruitment. but do you mind if I just comment on the bill before the Vice Chair? So I'm going to ask to hold this, but I just wanted to give some background. So the education support professionals are the bus drivers, janitors. We're trying to figure out things with the House, just to figure out language that doesn't necessarily, we want to help, but we're still trying to figure out things with the House in terms of mandate language and then also a work group. So I would ask to hold it, but that doesn't, I just wanted to make it very clear, that doesn't limit the importance of this population, but just trying to make sure that we have some kind of long-term strategy.
Very good. You still want to comment?
One question.
Yeah, please.
What's the fiscal note on it? What do we think it's going to cost the local?
We can't tell.
So I can.
Yeah.
Could you tell me again what group we're talking about?
Sure. So I'll answer the Vice Chair's question first, and then I'll address Senator Benson's question.
Yeah.
So so I believe the Vice Chair asked what the fiscal note is. Since it sounds like it's primarily the local LEA, the counties that will be paying. There's no real state impact.
No, the LEAs.
But it was, according to the fiscal note, they weren't really able to determine that. What they had in the fiscal note was tens of millions of dollars possibly to the local jurisdictions. But again, that's a moving piece. But that's still not really valid because we're not going to wind up doing that. So it's just a matter of like trying to figure out what the best course of action is in the least, in the most impactful way for the education support professionals. The education support professionals are your bus drivers, your janitors, your para educators. So we want to try to figure out a long-term strategy in terms of what we can do for this important population. And we have put our marker on this. I mean, we, as a body, the Senate took leadership and approved, a $1,000 bonus, and that was really the hard work of this committee. And more importantly, it's the hard work of the education support professionals that are on the ground providing invaluable service to our public schools and our community.
You know what people don't understand is that the bus drivers are the children's first defense. If those children get on the bus and it's not a good experience, when they get to school, it's a problem. I'm just surprised that we have this bill here at this late date. I don't understand why we don't understand the importance of these people who take care of our children. I don't understand it, but I guess one of these days I will.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
thank you very much for bringing
I think it's
bill to our attention.
agree is important too. It's just about, a lot of times just about the dollars, and there's it's a big cost.
You're right,
Big cost.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator?
Yeah, I have one other, I'm sorry, you want to go? Yeah. I have one other question. Is there any category of school employee that this does not cover other than teachers?
Well, this doesn't, so your principals, your facility staff, this is, I don't want to call them like, they're not part-time employees, but there's a specific classification. So this is your, building employees, your bus drivers, it's support staff, right?
So that's what I'm trying to get my mind, who doesn't it cover? That's what I'm trying to.
It doesn't cover your teachers, your administration, yes.
So it's everybody who is not a teacher or administrator. So it's the IT people, it's the maintenance people, it's the bus drivers, it's the paraprofessionals?
Correct.
So it covers everybody except the teachers and the administrators?
Pretty sure we're right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Bailey?
I just wanted to, on the fiscal note on page 2 at the bottom, where it talks about the expense, and I see St. Mary's County Public Schools expects first year cost to increase by over $32 million. That's a really significant number. Not that this is not a very serious and issue that we need to address, but we clearly don't have that money right in the local LEA. So that's
why, Senator, I said we're going to hold it. I mean, I think what I'm hearing is that this population is very important. We want to make sure that if there's something that we did, it's sustainable. And that's why. I guess I've been cut off. Man, the cuts already went into effect. No, I mean, look, that's why we're holding it. I think it's just very important. You know, the Senator Jackson kind of leaned into me and said, you know, it's just a really important conversation to have, and part of that is because we want to lift the education support professionals up. But yeah, that's why. I mean, that part of what we want to establish is longevity and like a plan. So we had passed in previous years a work group that didn't pass out of the House. We can also explore, you know, instead of mandating funding, authorizing. But of course, you know, that's part of the reason why we're holding it is because, look, the education support professionals are invaluable, but we're in difficult financial times right now, and that's part of the reason why we're having this conversation.
Appreciate you. King.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to mention, like Senator Zucker just said, we're in bad financial times now, but it just seems to me, and I may be more of a naysayer on this, every day on the news there's some other cut. The president's going to do away with the Department of Education. I just don't think we have a really good grasp on what our financial picture is going to look like. So I'm more of the mind of treading lightly here rather than putting things in that we're going to have to go back again and cut back out again. Just think we need to be careful.
Very good. All right, we're going to move on. 911.
Okay, Senate Bill 911 alters, it's an existing exemption from the property tax for houses that are owned by blind individuals or surviving spouse. Current law, $15,000 of the assessed value is not subject to taxation. This would raise that to $40,000 is not subject to taxation.
And what was the note?
So the fiscal note on the state side is $40,000. Oddly enough, on the local side, it's approximately $450,000.
We talked about it, and I sort of slowed things down when we were in the hearing because I was going to actually vote on it at that moment. But I think the numbers are fine to deal with. We didn't get it. Did MACO come in?
MACO opposes, as does MML.
Yeah, I mean, they can't get everything they want. They can't get everything they want. That's right. This is a minor amount of money in the great spread at 460,000. You say over the
450.
450 over the entire state. I think this is well worth doing this. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? You want to be added? Okay. Anybody want to be added?
Yeah. Sure.
Looks like everybody but Senator Jennings.
So, and then
Did I shake that jar?
I can check with Senator Lewis Young when I see her again.
And Corey.
Right. So everyone.
Senator Bailey, you want to take that one? Okay, 962.
All right, Senate Bill 962 has to do with the audited financial statements that need to be conducted by municipalities and counties and special taxing districts. What this bill does is it creates an automatic exemption from having to submit those if it's for a municipality only, where their annual revenues are less than $100,000.
So we obviously have had issues last year with municipality. I don't know what their revenues were. I mean, it certainly seems reasonable to think about this with revenues under $100,000 to pay for a full audit. It's annual, right?
So, yeah, it's an annual It's an annual.
It's required, right? We
Yeah, they
require
can, current law allows them to request
a waiver.
a waiver for 4 years, to do it every 4 years at a $250,000 level. Yes. The bill also does say, though, that if the Joint Audit and Evaluation Committee decides, they can request one despite this
Anyway.
exemption, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought.
And they would
Yeah.
still have to file their financial report, just not go through the audit.
Yeah. Senator?
I think that's an important distinction. They still have to file a financial report.
Right.
But on the other hand, if they can get a waiver anyway, what's the problem?
It's an optional waiver. We don't, OLA doesn't have to grant the waiver.
Do
This
we have any
turns it
idea whether
into
they grant waivers?
an exemption. Yeah, so I have, let's see, in 2023, OLA advises that 22 entities were eligible to receive a waiver, given the 250 threshold. 15 were granted.
But we don't know if all of them asked for it.
We know that 22 asked,
They
well,
vote.
that's true. No, 22 entities requested it and 15 received it.
Okay. So they get rejected.
And the bill also says there are 6 municipalities that fall under this $100,000 threshold.
Hey, listen.
Port Tobacco, Brookview, Church Creek, El Dorado, and Galestown. Those
At Galestown.
those are in Dorchester County, and Rosemont in Frederick. Port Tobacco is Charleston.
Senator Jackson.
Quick question.
Mr. Chairman, members, I've been following this issue, this problem of auditing for the past 2 or 3 years. And I'm telling you all that we should not pass this bill. I'm telling you, because as a result of the audits, we were able to uncover a lot of money that was missing. I mean, as a matter of fact, we're in federal court right now over one of our municipalities. And if you look at the reports for the past several years, several of our municipalities, one in Montgomery County, I think was shut down as a result of the audit. So I think we need to keep our arms around this money issue
We need to
here.
restate something.
I would strongly suggest that we not consider this bill.
Okay, Eric?
Yeah, just rereading the sentence about who under the request, the $250,000 limit. 22 municipalities are under that limit. 15 requested them and received the waiver.
It
Yes,
was turned down.
correct.
Just quickly to Senator Benson, to your point, I mean, look, we went through a lot, and I think that's important to recognize. It's also important that they were bigger municipalities. They had resources to, quite frankly, maybe not be as careful with. These are pretty small entities, but I think, I don't know, I think it's a reason.
coin.
Yeah, it's almost a coin flip, in my mind. Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was trying to look through MML's statement. They're favorable with an amendment. My question is, does MML help these smaller jurisdictions with their audits? They pay dues, they're part of an association. And if the issue is that it costs roughly $10,000 maybe, whatever the cost is. So that's, so you're part of an association for, other than just to have the jersey, I hope, but that's, I would just like to know for those smaller municipalities, I'm familiar with a couple of them, but I think they have to do the annual financials, but, people can kind of financials in a number of different ways. It's just a question I have.
Yeah. All right, we'll get the answer to that.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next one. 963.
Senate Bill 963 establishes the Abandoned and Neglected Cemeteries Fund, and it establishes an income tax checkoff. The provisions relating to the income tax checkoff would take effect beginning July 1, 2026. And the purpose of the fund is to care for these abandoned cemeteries.
How many checkoffs do we have right now?
100.
No.
200.
I think probably, I doubt that.
Several. That's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to see if it's in here.
Yeah, I'm generally not a big fan of these checkoffs. And I think it's proven that most of them don't generate much of anything. I'm sympathetic to this cause in a bit because I've had to work on these in my own community. What is this fund? Is this, the fund is just created to receive the money from the checkoff? Is that the only thing, or does it?
And it specifies how or what things the money should be spent on.
Does it also talk about receiving other funds from other places?
Money appropriated in the state budget and any other money from other sources.
Yeah. What's that?
So these are abandoned cemeteries.
They are. And like I said, yeah, I've had to deal with a couple of them in my.
Same here. And so I think, how do they identify whose responsibility it is?
I think that's a large part of the problem.
And so,
It may have been a church that no longer exists,
Right.
or family plots, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And so, I guess the question to our analysts is, so you're identifying, we certainly have these issues in a lot of the places in the rural areas. Does this fund go to finding who's responsible, or does it just go to finding, it just goes to cleaning it up?
It's just saying cleaning it up, care, preservation, maintenance, and restoration of the cemeteries. It doesn't talk about finding, I guess, the owners or anything of that nature.
So that means the county or the jurisdiction will get the dollars to clean up? Is that?
Could be, it might be a nonprofit.
Might be. No.
Silent on.
Who administers the fund?
The state, it goes to the state treasurer to hold the fund. And the comptroller accounts for the fund. That's it. And there are 5 current checkoffs.
Okay, but, so if the fund's just sitting there, somebody's got to be the one who's in charge of distributing it, if there is any money.
There is a Maryland Office of Cemetery Oversight in the Department of Labor,
How about that?
which I learned when I was looking at regulatory boards on.
Maybe we can
prices.
make sure that those dollars go
You
there.
got a lot of time on your hands.
I do. I mean, I just remember that.
So can the bill direct it to that, or?
Well, I was going to suggest, if we move on this, what I was going to suggest is take the checkoff part out and establish the fund, authorize 250,000, but somebody's got to administer
The
it.
Secretary of Labor administers the fund.
Oh, Secretary of Labor already
Secretary of
does.
Labor? Okay. Very cool.
Y'all good with that? Anybody? So we'll get rid of the checkoff. We'll authorize $250,000 and it's already going to be administered by the Secretary of Labor.
I do know that Lionel represents the secretary. But yeah, that's cool, that's great. I'm glad to know that we know it.
Is that good with everybody?
Yep.
All right, as amended, all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I ask a question?
You may.
When we decide something like this,
Yep.
does the Secretary of Labor ever get told that they have this to administer? Or it just gets written on the books and,
I mean, at this point, the only way money's going to get in there is if the governor says it's going to go in there. So
that's why I'm just wondering if it's,
presumably.
are we just doing something nice?
Yeah, presumably the governor's office. I mean, look, this gives the opportunity for people who are interested in this, and there are people out there who are interested in these things, to reach out to the executive branch and say, yeah.
And the executive branch review bills we pass.
Right.
Veto or not.
Yeah.
He'll know about it.
Yeah. Yes.
Was through OCO and the Historic Trust and a couple other groups. They did like 5 bills this year. And this was one of the bills that they mentioned to me. I did one bill for them in AAA. And, I kind of understand what they're trying to do. Giving more observance, I guess, in some of those areas and help and upkeep. And some of the problems, if you said it yourself, you have private ones, you have others, you have veterans. There's so many different ones. And this is, I think, one of their concerns that they've had. So I just got one out of AAE that was doing similar to this, but a couple other things too, by number and location. But just wanted to say.
Okay. All right, so as amended, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Let's, Senator Jackson, you want to take this, or do you want to take it? You seem very interested in it. You want to do it?
They're fighting over it now.
Who would like to do it?
What's it worth to you?
Senator Stallings. Senator Stallings is going to do it. Senator Stallings doing it. Done. All right, let's see about this one. Last one, 980.
Senate Bill 980 modifies the amount and use of funds transferred from the program Open Space to the Maryland Heritage Areas Authority Financing Fund. It increases the transfer amount from up to $6 million to up to $12 million and reduces the percentage of that fund that can be used for operating expenses from 10% to 7%. There is a technical amendment for this bill. I don't have it drafted yet, but there was a flaw discovered in the drop of the percentage rate for what could be used for operating. And the typical cost for operating is $600,000 when the program was fully funded at $6 million. And so dropping that percentage rate would yield less money than they currently receive in operating. So the amendment would address that issue.
Senator Corbin, why don't you tell us why you put this bill in?
So I think it's about the heritage areas. It's basically lifting the cap to authorize that additional amount. There's heritage areas all across the state. I think we've all seen all the good work they've done. I'm just trying to follow your lead, Mr. Chairman. When I went back and looked at this, I think Senator Casemeyer had it originally, and there was one co-sponsor on it. It was you. So I knew right then it was a good bill. But no.
It's a lesson to you, everyone.
But no, all kidding aside, I think I think it was done many years, a few years back now. There's additional funds that are obviously needed. It doesn't mandate it. It's up to the governor, to the analyst's point, that we do need to fix something there with the administrative costs, but we have a pretty simple fix of that would address that.
So the monies come from,
Money's come from POS, Project Open Space, on the state side, so it doesn't impact the local side.
and what kind of testimony did we receive?
A lot.
The unfavorables. What unfavorable vote?
I don't see any unfavorables. I have a couple of information.
There's no unfavorables and there's 3 information. No unfavorables.
3 information.
Yep,
3 information.
Yeah,
yep. No unfavorables.
those were
Yeah,
planning,
informational
historic
says-
trust, and Mako.
The only little hesitation that comes in my mind is, DLS has recommended some changes to program open space as a possibility dealing with our budget issues. I just want to, I think, take a moment to review that in the context of that.
No, I think that's a fair point. At the same time, also understand, recognizing that whatever that is, even going forward, it will be authorized. And so if open space does get cut back, it doesn't mean these folks are going to get 12 million.
Yeah, it's all
It may be, commensurate on whatever that cut may or may
That's
not
a
be.
fair point.
Therefore, because
Yep.
therefore.
Yeah, let's just hold it for now, but, and we'll get sponsors later, so. We're going to vote multiple times next week. So everything we held, we'll just keep recycling. And then there was stuff from last night that we held, I'm sure, if I'm remembering correctly. So we'll keep recycling all this. Judiciously, if you have anything in our possession that you think we need to take up before crossover, let me know and we'll make a determination about that.
But we don't have to take up everything.
We do not, judiciously.
Oh, understood. I know there's some, we're trying to nudge some folks on, getting these local bills over. So those are included for next week as well?
Sure. If you have ones that, yeah.
Usually appears in when I talk to our people back in Prince George's County. How safe are we with the bridge? Did the president put the funding in and it's still set? Thank goodness for that. That is so wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. The second is, where are we with the commanders?
Not set.
Statement.
Yes. Not set. I don't have any more detailed information than you would have already read in the papers.
So, okay.